Wow. Welcome. This is Cut the Noise Show, where we have authentic conversations with corporate athletes and business owners highlighting their journey to success. I'm your guide, Kabi Asari. And today we're talking to my good friend, Air Duvi, aka Stefan Duvivier. And I'm excited, bro, to have you here. Thanks for giving your time to chat with me on this first ever show. I'm hyped. This can't be better, man. Can't be better. You guys are in for a treat. Let me give you a quick little intro here. He doesn't even know I'm about to do this, but I'm about to embarrass him a little bit. Quick little intro of this. Stefan Duvivier is passionate about optimizing the way we move and function, since the foundation of any skill is the state of our bodies, right? So he helps athletes reach their full potential, and I can testify to this through an advanced holistic training method. And he believes that the key to enhancing the way we operate is anchoring our focus in the body and following our internal guidance. His methodology is based on universal principles of movement and Eastern mindful practices. He is also a fellow jumbo from Tufts University and national high jump champion. Um, and his company is called Mind Your Movement. And you can reach him on IG. His handle is right there, and on TikTok as well, where he's blowing up. So, a pleasure to have you on here, bro. I appreciate you making the time. Besides what I just said, man, give us a quick little thing about who you are, who is Stefan, who's Air Doovie. Give us something I didn't say.
Yeah, thank you for that intro, man. That was really well said, almost better than I could say it. Yeah, man. I mean, just to give the people a little bit more, I found this love for movement. I think it goes way back to when I was a kid, just playing basketball in my driveway, little hoop I had, rode bikes around, raced my friends in the neighborhood, just all that type of stuff. I think set me up for athletic success later down the line because really all it is just honing that skill through consistent practice.
Mm,
But I think a big thing for me is practicing in the context of fun instead of practicing in the context of training. You know what I mean? Because I think
yeah.
training, I think it has this connotation of being super serious and rigid and uptight, and I think that could be really limiting. And I think it doesn't really allow for full expression of oneself. And I think at the end of the day, any sport, any movement practice, it really just comes down to being able to express yourself through your body, what you're internally feeling and experiencing. You're putting that out into the world and creating something real with it, whether it be dance or a sports specific skill or whatever else, so that it could be in the world, you know? So I think that's why movement is so important to me. I think I've been doing it all my life, but it took me years to really realize what it truly meant to me and how it really allows me to be myself.
Speaking of passion, man, I appreciate that description. It sounds like movement is both your canvas and your paintbrush to express what you have in you to the world. I appreciate that. Well, let's peel it back a little bit, man, because when a lot of people, again, go check out Adubi on Instagram and on TikTok. When a lot of people see your page, I think the question they'll have is, or at least the thought process they'll have is, man, this guy is on a different level. Have you always been this elite of a mover? And if not, like when did things really start to shift for you? And when did you become this elite mover that we see on the screen?
That's a good question. I think, yeah, that's a good question. I don't even know how to answer that. I think I'll start with me playing basketball at a real early age. So my sister is 10 years older than me, and she she was on her high school basketball team at the time, and she was just coaching me up to play basketball myself in our driveway on that same hoop I was talking about before. And I remember her ruthlessly showing me how to shoot being she was my first experience as like a tough coach, honestly, in a lot of ways. So I remember that, and I remember since then basketball became a real big part of my life. So I always had some form of basketball in my day to day. Like I would always go play outside, always go play one on one with my friends. I did basketball camps, I did leagues, I did really everything. And then when I first started on a more competitive level, I was in eighth grade. That was my first travel basketball experience, and I think that really it did two things. On one end of the spectrum, it started me on a path of forgetting why I did movement in the first place, why I was so passionate about movement. And then on another end, it got me deeper into my movement and deeper into athleticism and sports. So I guess I would say that from an early age, I was very athletic. I was very in tune with sports. But I experienced some turning points in terms of really being connected to that and really being able to again like just express myself through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, let me peel it back a little bit. And you mentioned turning point. Let me ask you here, as I know your fellow Jumbo, Tufts University. I got two things for you. I know you're a biology major. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
That's
Biology
confirmed.
and public health.
Okay, biology and public health. Okay, so my question, and I've never asked you this, is first of all, I heard how hard biology was. I heard all my pre-med folks being like just dying at Tufts University. Why on God's green earth did you choose biology? How was your experience, and how did that connect to your development as a mover and reconnecting back to that love of movement? Did it elevate you at all? Did it, or was it completely separate?
That's a good question. So I think in a lot of ways it was fueled by this pressure that I felt, whether internal, external, some combination of both, to be super quote unquote successful. And so I wanted to do this biology major to eventually make a lot of money as a doctor or a surgeon or whatever else it may be. But I didn't really think too much about what it would actually be and if I was actually into it, if I was actually passionate about it. But I do think that that being said, there was some internal drive to understand the body on a deeper level, to understand how the body works and how it just functions so that I could optimize it. Because that's been
Mm,
something that's been even deeper than movement, I think, is the body function and how the body actually works. You know, so if we can understand that, if we can optimize how it actually works, then we can live a better experience of life. Because at the end of the day, our vessel is the only way that we can experience any of this.
yeah.
Otherwise, we're just nothingness. We're just pure consciousness, which is great. But you think back to the Greek gods, and I might be going on a little bit of a rift here, but you think back to the Greek gods, they got bored in heaven. They wanted to
Mm,
be down here on earth, and they wanted to really experience what it was like to live, you
mm,
know, and the only way to do that is in flesh. So I think we glorify this idea of heaven and this afterlife, but this is where we want to be. So I've just found a new sense of gratitude for that through understanding how the body works and understanding that as we improve its function, we can
mm.
experience this life better and enjoy it more.
Makes sense, man. Makes sense. Improving our vessel, our connection to Earth, being down here. At least what I'm hearing is improves our ability to actually experience life and live it. It was funny. I heard somewhere. I can't remember exactly where that. A kid that was in church says, if that's heaven, I don't know if I want to go. It sounds kind of boring. All right. So
Yeah,
to relate to your point, to to
yeah.
to to build off of that real quick, and what I heard also was that biology. helped deepen that understanding of the human body and connect you a little bit more to what you came to do. But you also said originally you were headed down the doctor medical path. What clearly you didn't do that, right? So I'm curious what happened after Tufts University in terms of your decision to pursue something else. Walk me through that a little bit. What did that look like? What was that decision process, and how did you come to be an entrepreneur rather than pursuing the medical path?
Great question. So I think it started off with me coming from Florida and going to a prestigious university, being Tufts University. The education, at least what in terms of what I perceived here in Florida, well, back in Florida, I'm not in Florida currently, but back in Florida wasn't to the same level of any New England schools.
Mm.
So when I originally got to Tufts, I had always gotten good grades. I had always been like pretty much an A student for the most part. But Tufts was a wake up call because the course load was huge. The difficulty of that coursework was also like nothing I had ever really experienced. And the people were so smart, the other students. So I was always used to being the one who was answering all the questions, who always had the best insights in class. But it was just, again, a wake up call to see that I wasn't the smartest one in the room. And I think I let that, it made me shy away a little bit, So I started having doubts about my intelligence. I started having doubts about my academic capabilities. So I think that's one thing. And I let that deter me from really putting my all into it. So I started just being like, man, like, I'm just going to pass. I'm going to do enough to graduate. And I'm really going to focus on sports. I'm really going to focus on especially high jump because I played basketball and high jump in college, as I'm sure you know. But eventually, my junior year, halfway through the season, there was a tense moment with the basketball coach, the head basketball coach. And I'm not going to get into this too much, but basically, right after practice, he said some words to me, and in a sense, it felt like he was pushing me to quit. He was like, either you're going to shut the fuck up and listen to what I have to say, and just like be subservient, or you're out of here. And he pretty much gave me that choice, and I was like, "Yep, I'm out of here if you're gonna talk to me like that." So I got my stuff from the locker room and peaced out. And then from there, that allowed me to have a full indoor track and field season the next semester, my senior year of college, and win a national championship. So it all worked out for the better. But where was I going with that?
Question was, what deterred you were originally going down the medical path? How did you get off the medical path and onto the path of entrepreneurship?
Right. So yeah, so I was talking about how I was focusing on sports, I was focusing on athletics, and in addition to that, I also realized how corrupt the whole healthcare system was. I realized that it wasn't everything that I thought it was going to be, and I realized that there were all these hoops and all these requirements that you had to jump through that just to me didn't make any sense. If we really wanted to help people, then why would we make it so difficult and inaccessible to become a doctor or to
Mm,
become some kind of healthcare professional? So that was the way that I was looking at it, and eventually it really turned me off from doing that.
got it.
So I had no idea what I was going to do because I was obviously graduating with public health and biology, and I had no interest in public health because I was honestly pretty similar, and everything in the classes that I was learning just seemed super commonsensical. Like it was like Black people have poorer health outcomes, and like food deserts and all of that. Like that was stuff that I grew up with. It was honestly interesting to see that there were entire studies based on that, but to me, it was just like so matter of fact. So it never really
Right.
interested me. So that being said, I had no idea what I was going to do after school. I knew I didn't want a 9 to 5 job because I was way too active to be sitting at a desk all day. So I kind of just beat around the bush. I was looking at jobs here and there on LinkedIn, research jobs, and other like public health office jobs, and none of them really called me. So I just did what I knew best, and I continued on with high jump. I continued on being in that sphere of health and wellness, and eventually I just started posting stuff on Instagram and just started posting like my smoothie recipes, started posting some workouts, and eventually that led into me getting some clients here and there. I worked with a bunch of old tough students who I went to school with at first, and then that transformed into what it is now, into a real business. So I think,
Mm.
yeah, I'll leave it there. I think that mostly answers your question.
No, no, it does. It does. It does. And looking at your experience, from what you described, going through college, one pre-med, or thinking about going down the medical path, transitioning, leaving basketball and focusing on track and field, coming out and posting stuff, and then building this business. Knowing what you know now, what, if anything, would you do differently?
That's a really good question. What I would do differently is have a very clear target in the beginning. Because
Mm,
at first I was just rolling around willy nilly, had no idea what I wanted to do. I was on this app called Coach Up, which basically connects you to different athletes who are looking for sports coaches. So I was doing that in the realm of high jump, and other track and field events, and also basketball. And that wasn't really that fulfilling. I was doing one-on-one personal training. I was trying to apply to some gyms. I was all over the place. I had no direction. So every action I took was more of a zigzag than a straight line.
mm,
So I just had no clear intention. And so if I were to go back, I would have sat down, I would have set clear goals, financial goals, business goals, and overall just personal goals. Like, what did I want to achieve? How did I want to live my life? And I would have let everything frame itself around that context instead of setting these external goals that were very superficial, that didn't really matter to me, and doing all these activities that I wasn't really passionate about.
got it. Got it. Got it. That's going to be super helpful to somebody that's going down the same path and looking for that, man. I appreciate that. So, what, as you were talking, what came to mind was there any value to some of that zigzagging, right? And to that point, maybe use that to also answer the question of, you know, there's what sets apart, and your company is Mind Your Movement. What sets apart Mind Your Movement to every other training program, coaching program, movement philosophy in the field currently? And was any of that zigzagging crucial or helpful in developing that methodology that you currently utilize?
Yeah, I think so. I think the zigzagging in a lot of ways just gave me so many different perspectives. I saw how a lot of people did things, and I saw the shortcomings, and I saw the good parts of it, the pros and the cons. And I was able to take all of that stuff, mix it with my own experience in terms of what worked, what didn't work for me, and create a methodology that I think is super beneficial to especially people that were in my similar shoes. So I've just been able to
And
draw.
what shoes is that? What's your similar shoes?
Yeah, good question. So drawing on all my experience as a lifelong athlete, being really invested in sports, but at the same time not following a sustainable approach. And by sustainable approach, I mean training in a way that not only is physically healthy in terms of promoting health through the body, promoting good movement, promoting just a physical health, but also mentally. Because I've been in a place where where I was just doing these things just to fulfill these superficial goals. You know, I gotta win this championship. I gotta make this scholarship, this and that. All these things were just outside of myself, and I wasn't really competing for myself. So I would make all these achievements and do all these things, and I just wouldn't be happy with them. You know,
Mm.
I would be I would celebrate for like a short period of time and then just go back into nothingness, you know,
Yeah.
and a lack of fulfillment overall. And I think that's one of the biggest, it's one of the saddest things in this world right now. People successful, being successful and achieving all these different things, but not feeling fulfilled about it.
Let me follow up with this, my brother. When you're familiar with Kevin Durant, yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you heard his comments after he won his first championship, I believe, with the Golden State Warriors, where he stated, "I thought this would feel different."
Mm-hmm.
Are,
Mm-hmm.
are you saying that maybe that might be, you might have a few things to chat with Kevin Durant about or draw his attention to in that regard? Is that the type of thing you're describing?
Definitely. And so now to tie this full circle in terms of what sets Mind Your Movement apart, I think the big thing that people are missing, why they don't feel fulfilled from the actions that they do on a day-to-day basis, is because they are acting externally. So they are letting the external world shape how they feel instead of moderating their internal world and being a good manager of their internal and
Mm.
letting that shape their external. You know what I mean? So instead of really our bodies again are the only way that we experience life. And it's the only thing we have control over. Nothing in life is going to go the way you want it to 100%. There's always going to be certain things you want to change. There's always going to be things outside of yourself that you could think are better or that you would want to adjust in some type of way. But what we can have 100% control of is our internal condition. And so if we fail to do that, if we're so concerned with these business dealings, with these financial dealings, with sports, but we forget to look internally and manage our internal conditions in terms of our physical, emotional, and mental well being. If we don't do that, there's nothing we can do externally that's going to keep us happy in a long term way.
Got it. Got it. Got it. That's a bar and a half. We're gonna get that clipped up. Listen, we're gonna wrap up here with a couple quick questions for you. One is, give us one or two health books that you might recommend for somebody that wants to elevate their health from the perspective that you just described. And if somebody wants to tap in with you with your program specifically, who is it right for everybody? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, good question. So, first of all, the books, I have to go with Born to Run. So, this is a book essentially, it's exactly what it sounds like. It speaks about how us as humans are literally made to run. Uh, we have all these different structures, our head and neck, and the ability for it to stay stable, our lungs and how they are positioned in our torso, our big Achilles tendon. All these things show that we literally evolved to run. And so, if we're not exercising that human capability, we are not in touch with ourselves as to our fullest capabilities. So I think that one was huge. And then it also touches a lot on how important it is to be barefoot and how important it is to lose these thick cushioned shoes that a lot of us are wearing on a day to day basis. And not to say that we have to completely get rid of them, but it is important to really connect to your feet and feel those feet on the ground. So, Born to Run, that one is great. The Oxygen Advantage, this one really, really changed the game for me. If I had to recommend one, it would probably be the Oxygen Advantage. the breath is life. The breath is so important. And one huge thing that I did not realize is that breathing less will actually help your body function more and really gain access to more oxygen. And oxygen, of course, is literally your body's currency. Without oxygen, there's no function. So, oxygen advantage, born to run. And in terms of who is best for the Mind Your Movement program, I'd say any athlete who is really passionate about movement, about understanding the depths of their sport. So, not just the sport itself, how to shoot a basketball, how to kick a soccer ball, but going deeper into that, going deeper into what makes up that ability to kick the soccer ball, what makes up that ability to shoot the basketball on a much deeper fundamental level. And what it comes down to is optimizing your body function. And so that goes hand in hand with your health, your well-being, and exactly what I spoke about in terms of managing your internal condition so that you live a better experience in life. So people who are looking to do both of those things, who are looking to optimize their sports performance and who want to optimize their experience of life.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Two more for you here, brother, and then we'll close it out here.
Sure.
Who in your network would you introduce me to for a conversation like this? And you have to help me make that introduction so we can get them on the show. And then I got one more for you. How in your life do you cut the noise?
Good question. So I'll go with the intro first. So my boy Mac, Coach Get Right on Instagram. I told you a little bit about him. He's a health and wellness coach. He works with NBA players. He works with all types of athletes and corporate athletes as well, helping them just optimize their wellness and really get in touch with their minds and their bodies. So highly recommend him. He's plant based and he has a CMOS company in addition to what he does with the coaching. So I think he'd be a phenomenal person to chop it up with.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. We'll make sure we make that happen. Ash, make sure we get that introduction going here. And then how do you cut the noise, my brother?
How do I cut the noise? I find that being still is so important, and that may not mean too much to some people. So I'll try and put it in as applicable of language as possible. So just making sure to find the time to be with yourself, to shut out all of the music, shut out all of the content from YouTube to Instagram to Google, all of that. Just take a second to be with yourself. Focus on one aspect of yourself, whether it's your breath, the thoughts through your head, the tension or lack of tension in your body. Just focus and be present with yourself for a few minutes a day. And I guarantee that there will be so many beneficial effects in terms of your ability to just live life in a happier, more fulfilled way. So that's how I cut the noise, just intentionally cutting the noise.
I don't think we could have planned a better premiere episode of Cut the Noise Show. My brother, thank you so much for being on here. Guys, you can find him at Air Duvi on Instagram, TikTok, mindyourmovement.com, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Say it again.
Mindyourmovement.fitness.
Fitness, mindyourmovement.fitness. This could not have been a better episode. Go ahead and go back and listen to it as Doobie was dropping so many nuggets. Appreciate you for making the time to be on here. This was only supposed to be a short period of time, man, but we had to keep it going because it was that good. And until next time, we'll see you on Cut the Noise Show. Thank you so much for listening and take care.
Yes, sir.